Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Adam Bittner, assistant sports editor for multimedia at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by Brian Batko, our Steelers insider for the Tuesday edition of the North Shore Drive podcast. Don't ask us about the lineup. This is not our usual spot. Brian usually does Thursdays, Saturdays. I usually do the post-game show. We're all scrambled with the short week. The Steelers going to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. So glad to get a chance to chat with Brian. Brian, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And yeah, we just had a Tomlin Tuesday on a Monday, so everything is thrown off here. When you've got Thursday night football on the schedule, you kind of you don't worry anymore about what day it is. Just try to get here's one that Tomlin should have dropped today. You try to get 10 pounds in an 8-pound bag.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing all week. So Brian, excited to get into it. We're going to talk about Derrick Harmon, the difference he may or may not be making for this defense, which has seen a turnaround over the last couple of games, really over the last 3 games if you go back to New England. We're also going to talk about the wide receiver situation. Where is Roman Wilson? Are the Steelers considering trading for a wide receiver? Has the evolution of the college season impacted that conversation at all, considering I don't know if there's a whole lot of quarterbacks the Steelers would look at and say that's our guy right now in the college ranks. So a lot to get to there. I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by FanDuel. We also want to thank another sponsor, Pella Windows and Doors. There's no better place to get new windows and doors installed in your home than Pella, who can help you save on energy costs year-round. Schedule a free in-home consultation with your local Pella Windows and Doors to find the right product for your home and budget. Give them a call at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started planning on your new windows and doors installation with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. Brian, I don't think it's a coincidence, but it might be a coincidence that the Steelers have kind of turned things around in these last 3 games, pretty much since the moment Derrick Harmon stepped back onto the field after his preseason injury that cost him the first couple of games. I don't want to say that he's the reason that things have turned around, but certainly it's coincided. So let's talk a little bit about him and what impact he's making. How much credit do you think he deserves, and how much of it is just the entire unit progressing as a whole?
I mean, I think on a macro level, the addition of Harmon, it's allowing you to not lean so much on guys up front. I think it's good to keep Keeanu Benton fresh, Daniel Ekuale, Y.A. Black fresh, so that they aren't getting pushed around in there. We certainly saw that first couple weeks against the Jets and the Seahawks. But on a micro level, you can't take anything away from this guy. I mean, I'll go to the Patriots game. He gets his first career sack in his first NFL game. It nearly gets to Drake May, but at least, got the penetration and the pressure that had May kind of, running for his life for the rest of that game. And Nick Herbig finished the job there. Second game against the Vikings, tips a pass, picked off by Deshaun Elliott in Dublin. Huge play by Harmon. And then again, Sunday against the Browns, gets another, I think, was it a half sack that he was credited with? But either way, I mean, you noticed him collapsing the pocket. Maybe it was a full sack. He's collapsing the pocket throughout the game. You notice him. He's showing up. Really, really good stuff from the first-round pick, who, I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily anticipate him hitting the ground running after missing all that time between the preseason and the regular season.
I wanted to ask specifically about the impact you think he might be having on Patrick Queen's game. Listen, I see the people in the comments the past couple of days fired up of what they've seen from Patrick Queen, especially this past week against the Browns. But I think there are a lot of people who were excited even with what they saw in Dublin from him. Yeah. Are those two things related? Is it a coincidence that Patrick Queen's having his best game when he's got, a new hulking figure up front, drawing blocks and that type of stuff on the defensive line?
Yeah, well, they've certainly been better against the run. And, asking guys about it after the Browns game Sunday in the locker room, I think some of it is just, hey, we've got our full complement now. It wasn't just Harmon who was out week 1. No Nick Herbig either against the Jets. Keep that in mind. And then, of course, Joey Porter Jr., hamstring seizes up late in that game. So he's out until the Browns game. And I thought he played really well against Cleveland. not just, the plays that he made on the ball, but seemingly living rent-free in Jerry Jeudy's head for the entirety of that game. He was a real thorn in their side. And that's encouraging going into this matchup with the Bengals. Mike Tomlin also didn't drop a T. Higgins as a goon reference on us like he did last season, but we know the assignment for Joey Porter, I think, when the Steelers do play the Bengals. So All of that. And Deshaun Elliott missed time as well. Can't forget about him. But I think it's partly getting everybody healthy, which is rare across the league. I mean, you're going to deal with injuries. There's no excuse making to be had for the Steelers. You need to figure out a way, next man up, piecemeal it. Depth players need to thrive, and that wasn't always happening. But at least right now, with all hands on deck, that's a big part of it. And so, too, guys were saying we're also just kind of figuring out how to play with each other and how all the pieces fit. It's not like they played much at all together in the preseason. So I think there was always some possibility that there'd be some growing pains early in the season to iron out communication and those kind of wrinkles. But at the same time, Adam, this is the softer portion of the schedule too, in my view. Now, teams like the Seahawks and the Patriots, friskier maybe than we expected, but you're still going to have to see the Lions, the Bills, the Chargers a little bit later on this season.
Yes, that's very true. Brian, I did want to also get into some of the analytical assessments of Derrick Harmon. I did my Pro Football Focus grades post on postgazette.com. I believe that's live now, so you should check that out over there. They like what they're seeing from him in terms of the pass rush, but you can see in the stats that there's concern about his work and run defense, and specifically I think about his tackling. He's missed a handful of tackles. How do you assess that? Because I look at it and I say the difference he's making for this entire defense seems to be profound and outweighs whatever the downside is on some of these down mistakes he might be making. But I think it's also possible that maybe the sacks are just hiding some things for some people. How are you interpreting the analytical assessments that are out there based on what you're seeing with your eyes?
Not putting a lot of stock into it. I think this has been a particularly anti-PFF season for Steelers fans when it comes to the grades they've had on Aaron Rodgers, Broderick Jones, TJ Watt. Somebody was tweeting out PFF grades from Steelers Browns like the minute that the game ended yesterday. And I mean, I guess this is a tangent, but I also don't really understand how that's even possible to compute that. I guess you can have a rough draft of something and then go back and rewatch, tie up some loose ends. But I mean, the thing always with those grades, if you want to call them analytics or metrics, is like you don't necessarily know a player's assignment on that play. You don't always have the context when you're trying to look at it with a critical eye and put a number value on it in a vacuum. So no, I think Derrick Harmon has been playing really well, and I think you really like his mentality. If you're the Steelers, it's not moving too fast for him. He's doing all the right things, and they put a lot on him by anointing him a starter before he had even played a game, which is very unusual for the Steelers. We're seeing the opposite right now for how it can go for rookies sometimes with Caleb Johnson and by extension de facto rookie Roman Wilson. So I do nothing really but tip my cap to Derrick Harmon, who unfortunately kind of for him. He's probably always going to be judged alongside Jaxson Dart in the what-if hypotheticals of the 2025 draft. But, man, if he keeps his head on straight, ignores all that outside noise, and just plays ball, I think he's going to be a long-time force up front for them.
Brian, my headline on that PFF post was that they gave Broderick Jones an 11.4 in pass blocking. He gave up one pressure, and I think it was one QB hit. In the game against the Browns. They gave him like a 48 point something in the game against the Jets where he gave up 3 sacks and a quarterback hit. Truly some of this math doesn't math sometimes with these grades.
At what point do we stop giving it oxygen, Adam? I mean, like I take it with a helping grain of salt here at this point. So
sometimes there are underlying metrics that I think are useful to look at in the context of things we might have missed just watching the game. I know I missed things. And so that's where I think PFF is useful, but certainly you're right. It was not a great week for them. And I have noticed the accelerated timeline of these grades. I used to write it on Tuesday because they weren't available until then.
Yeah.
Now they're available Monday morning when I'm waking up and starting my day. So maybe they got to tighten up the process a little bit over there.
Get it together, PFF, or you won't be getting any more Bobby Slowicks hired into the NFL.
That is true. The Steelers are 5.5-point favorites this week, according to our friends at FanDuel. So make sure you're checking them out if you're looking to place a wager on the game. Brian, what's the upside for
I
Derek
gave you guys
Harmon
the
here?
Steelers alternate spread last week on Chipped Ham and football. I think it was plus 13. So I hope people jumped on that with our friends at FanDuel. So
You gave them the alternate spread. I clearly did
minus
not.
13 maybe.
I didn't put in quite the amount of hustle here on the short week, but
yeah. Or I hope it wasn't.
Yeah.
I hope it. I hope it wasn't too many units that you're getting flagged there. But no, I mean, I thought that was a prime spot for the Steelers. And as far as this one, I don't know. I need to look more into what the Bengals were able to do yesterday against the Packers. Although same problem Mike Tomlin and the coaches and the players have got very little time to prep for this one.
Brian, what's the upside for Derek Harmon? What's the realistic room for growth that might be left for this guy? He missed a good chunk of the preseason. We see a lot of guys, certainly with the Steelers, that have ended up with redshirt years with similar situations to what Derek Harmon has faced, basically making no impacts. Now he's in there. He's making an impact. How much better can he get from here?
Yeah, I mean, got to stay healthy. I think that's always a concern for rookies, and especially late in that season, that quote-unquote rookie wall. You know, Troy Fautanu didn't get a chance to bounce back from the preseason injury last year because he went and got hurt again in practice between weeks 2 and 3. So, yeah, it's great for Harmon that he's staying healthy, staying on the field. That's always number one. I think the conditioning aspect of it, too, that was, a problem for him at times early in his high school and college career. So I think anybody has to stay on top of that, but particularly the big men up front. But yeah, I think there's a lot of upside. I remember one of the first days of training camp, I had someone from the Steelers kind of tell me with a wink and a nudge, he's probably our second best interior pass rusher right now, unless Keeanu Benton makes the jump. And we're seeing some better things lately from Benton too. But this was a draft to get some reinforcements for the long run on the D line, and so far so good.
We are going to get into receivers on the other side of this break, talking a little Roman Wilson. Scotty Miller, where is he? Lots to get to. I think there's an Adam Schefter report out there as well, so we can touch on that. We'll be right back on the other side. Second segment here on the North Shore Drive podcast, talking Steelers receivers and their options there as the passing game starts to get going a little bit. Before we get too far into the segment, we want to thank another sponsor. It's Goldberg, Persky, and White. If you were diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky, and White. For over 40 years, their firm has represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. Brian, we did have a Roman Wilson sighting yesterday. It was a single sighting, had that 11-yard catch in the second half. Otherwise, kind of invisible, even with Calvin Austin out of the lineup with his injury. Is it just a matter of matchups with him and wanting to play with this heavier personnel with these tight ends that we saw a lot of? Big day for Darnell Washington. Jonnu Smith was involved. Is that what it is with Roman Wilson? Like, this is just how the Steelers want to play, and there's not a ton of room or targets for him? Or is there something going on with him that maybe, you're not picking up if you're not there, at the facility every day like you are?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty much the former there. But, I mean, at some point, there's just a common denominator of we're trying to get our best guys out there, and you're clearly not what we deem to be among the best guys. And that's not ideal for someone that you use a third-round pick on. So I'm not completely writing him off. This could very well be Calvin Austin's last year with the Steelers. He's in the final year of his contract, and obviously they didn't hammer out an extension with him this offseason. So, maybe the time is coming for Roman Wilson. Maybe it's 2026 and beyond. But, yeah, I mean, in this, this latest, iteration of the Steelers offense, use Scotty Miller a little bit more and did get the tight ends more involved. So I think they're finding ways to, win games on a week-to-week basis and planning for those specific opponents. But I think another part of Arthur Smith's job, too, on the back burner is thinking about how to incorporate guys if you do need to throw a counter punch out there based on what a defense is giving you. And you just have to hope that that number 10 is sort of prepping for that. And, another old Tomlinism, work while you wait.
So the similar story for you with Scotty Miller. That's another name that was not on our radars going into the offseason. Goes up to Latrobe, makes waves, did some solid things in the preseason games.
Yeah.
Earned a job over Robert Woods, I think a lot of people weren't expecting that. So he's on the roster. We talked about the chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, especially on those short, quick throws. We haven't seen it manifest very much. Is it, again, just a matter of the matchups and how they've chosen to attack some of these teams, and I guess especially the Browns with Calvin Austin not in there? Or is that just Latrobe talk that we maybe read a little too much into?
I mean, I don't think we read too much into it because he did end up making the team, and he, leapfrogged a young third-round pick on the depth chart, essentially. So good on Scotty Miller for that. But no, I mean, I think it's just more about there's probably not many plays in the old playbook there where he's the first or second option. They want to get the ball to DK Metcalf a ton, which why wouldn't you? That's working out great for Aaron Rodgers and everybody involved. They want to run it a lot. I mean, there were personnel groupings Sunday with Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Warren both on the field at the same time. So when you've got two running backs out there, that there's a lot less pie to go around for the receivers, the tight ends, Darnell Washington out there, Spencer Anderson, they're lining up a lineman as an eligible guy. So that eats into everybody's playing time. So yeah, I mean, I think they would tell you they don't really care. It's not really much of a concern as long as they're winning. But yeah, I guess it's fair to sort of wonder if you do get into a game where you've got to drop back and throw 40, 45 times and come back to win. Do you have the players ready to do that? I guess we'll cross that bridge if we get to it.
Well, and I think they have had the players so far. I think it's worked out as the Steelers had hoped in terms of winning games while having those questions at wide receiver. But the trade deadline is now looming. It's your last chance to kind of make potential upgrades. We know Adam Schefter said this morning that he thinks the Steelers are looking into a trade for a wide receiver. Curious how you interpret that, especially in the context, I think I mentioned at the top of the show, we spent so much of the preseason, so much of the offseason talking about how the Steelers were stockpiling picks so that they would have the ability to trade up for a quarterback if one was available. It's been a rough season for those guys at the college level. Drew Aller at Penn State, I think, is the big headline right now, having had his season end with an injury. But pretty much across the board, these guys are not, lighting the world on fire. You've had Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, just not really blow people away in victory and stuff. And listen, that stuff all changes once you get into the evaluation process. But as we sit here today, this class isn't looking as strong as we thought it might be. Do the Steelers think about potentially deploying some of that draft capital that they've accrued to bring in a second receiver next to DK Metcalf that maybe does the job better than a Calvin Austin, a Roman Wilson, or a Scotty Miller?
Yeah, somebody asked me about that in my mailbag last week, and the way I answered was basically, when you're a team that has amassed a lot of future draft capital or projected future draft capital for the sake of the comp picks, you never want to see the draft class look weaker than expected. That just doesn't help you at all, and you don't want to see the quarterback position specifically when you've got a 41-year-old on a 1-year deal look weaker. But at least. And the other part of it too, Adam, is like the more the Steelers win and they're positioning themselves as, maybe not just a playoff team, but potentially the AFC North champions, their pick is going to get lower too. So it's going to take more to move up for a quarterback if they see one they want. But no, that's just where you got to stay flexible, stay nimble, stay light on your feet if you're Omar Khan. And the thing that always gets me about the reports by whoever that he's looking for receiver help. So you're telling me that the GM of an NFL team is making calls around the league to potentially try to make his team better? Huh. That's intriguing. Or is that just his entire job? So, yes, I'm not really moved too much one way or the other unless some more definitive or detailed or concrete stuff comes out on that.
How do you evaluate the George Pickens trade at this point in time? He's obviously had some level of success in Dallas. That's gone part and parcel, I think, with the CeeDee Lamb injury down there. But regardless, he has not flamed out as we've seen some of these other Steelers receivers do once they get traded away from Pittsburgh. Do you think that there is some level of regret in that building that they don't have that guy, or was it just a matter of they weren't getting along and that there still needed to be a change there regardless of anything else?
Struggling to come up with different ways to discuss this topic and answer it. And to his credit, it's only increasing in attention with every good week that he has. And, every week that the Cowboys lose to a team like the Panthers. So, I'm not trying to take anything away from it. Their offense is looking good and moving the ball, scoring points, even without CeeDee Lamb because Pickens has stepped up. I've never doubted the guy's physical ability or the talent. Now, there were some games last year where whatever was going on with him, focus drops. Like you were actually surprised when he wasn't getting the job done between the lines, even though he was seemingly never getting the job done, in other areas. But no, I really don't think that there's regret or people kicking themselves and saying, what if? Because they knew what he was as a player. They knew, I think back to the Combine when Mike Tomlin, after, it was the owners' meetings actually, because it was after the DK Metcalf acquisition, of course, that he said, he was asked about those two coexisting and said how difficult it's going to be on the defensive schematics. And that's the way that he would look at things for himself as a defensive-minded head coach. But it was just never, it was never going to be a tenable situation. There was no putting the toothpaste back in the tube with him. For 3 years, he caused way, way too many headaches at every level of this building, I think. So, it's unfortunate that either he didn't want to be here more or they couldn't get through to him more or whatever, but that had run its course. They got some really good games and seasons out of him, but we'll see if he can stay on the straight and narrow, effort-wise, attitude-wise, character-wise, all that down in Dallas now.
Yeah, and we just discussed, you get a third-round pick for George Pickens. You could probably get someone productive for that same third-round pick if that's the determination you want to make, and possibly without someone who's a little bit more,
someone who's a little bit more of an adult in the room, I think.
Like DK Metcalf. I think we've seen the professionalism that DK Metcalf has brought to the team. If you double up on that, you probably end up in a better position than you otherwise would have been in the end. So sometimes you just got to take these as they come, and we might be having a different conversation a month from now. If history serves, and we saw the Steelers make a trade last year for Mike Williams, didn't quite work out, but maybe
bring him out of retirement, perhaps.
Yeah, they could always give him a buzz, see what's going on there. So yeah, these things are fluid situations, and we'll continue to assess them. Brian, thank you for joining me today. Everyone else, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to have the North Shore Drive back on Wednesday. Ross Tucker, the acclaimed football podcaster, will be joining Christopher Carter. So you're definitely going to hit the subscribe button for that. Myself, Paul Zeiss, will be back for Thursday Night Football post-game. I believe we're going to be talking to you as well on Friday. So lots more there. If you enjoyed this video, please pop a like on it. Help us out in the YouTube algorithm. Check out our written work at post-gazette.com. And we will talk to you again next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.